Every morning at the same cracked city bus stop on the edge of a quiet American college town, the same scene repeated itself like a routine nobody questioned. Students with earbuds and branded backpacks stood scrolling through glowing screens while traffic hummed past and the sun slowly climbed between old brick buildings. Among them stood the rich college girl. Her name was Madison Clark. She wore expensive sneakers clean every day, even in the rain. Her hair always styled like she was walking into a photo shoot instead of a bus. She talked loudly about internships, vacations, sorority drama, and how exhausting it was to be talented in a world full of average people. And every morning a few steps away stood the bus stop Aunty. No one knew her real name. Everyone just called her Aunty. She wore the same faded coat every season. Her shoes were worn but clean. Her hair tied back neatly. Her hands carried the quiet marks of long years of work. She arrived early every morning, standing straight, holding a simple cloth bag, and looking at the road like she had all the time in the world. Madison noticed her the first week of freshman year. At first it was just a glance, then a smirk, then a laugh shared with friends. Why does she stand like that every day? Does she even go anywhere? Maybe she likes pretending she belongs with college students. The laughter grew louder over time. It became comments said just loud enough. Some mornings Madison would whisper. Some mornings she would say it openly. "Hey Aunty, missed your limo again. You know this bus is for students, right? Must be nice having nowhere important to be." Her friends laughed. Some looked uncomfortable. Some joined in. No one stopped it. The Aunty never reacted. She never looked angry. Never embarrassed. Never sad. She simply stood and waited. Sometimes she smiled slightly, like she was watching a memory only she could see. Madison mistook silence for weakness. She believed money gave her authority. Her father was a corporate consultant. Her mother sat on charity boards. She herself had a full scholarship she bragged about constantly. Earned, she would say proudly. Proof that hard work and talent always rise. She loved reminding people, "I do not even pay tuition. I am literally too valuable for this school to charge me." No one questioned it. Not even Madison herself. Every morning the comments continued. Sometimes cruel. Sometimes playful. Always sharp. One winter morning Madison spilled coffee on her designer jacket and snapped. "Great, now my whole day is ruined." The Aunty quietly reached into her bag and handed her a napkin. Madison stared like she had been insulted. "I do not need charity," she said loudly. "Some of us can afford better." The Aunty gently pulled the napkin back. She nodded once and said nothing. That silence somehow irritated Madison more than any reply. Years passed like this. Seasons changed. Freshmen became seniors. Faces at the bus stop rotated except two. Madison and the Aunty. By senior year, Madison had become a campus name. Top student. Student government. Internships lined up. Graduation honors guaranteed. About her future. New York. Finance. Power. One morning during her final semester, she laughed again, louder than usual. For years, same spot, same coat. "Aunty, you ever get tired of standing here pretending?" The Aunty looked at her for the first time directly. Her eyes were calm, steady, and surprisingly young. She spoke softly. "Graduation comes faster than you think." Madison laughed. "Trust me, I know. I have been planning mine since day one." The bus arrived. The Aunty stepped on. Madison barely noticed. Graduation week arrived with banners and music and proud families flooding the campus. Madison wore white. Her parents arrived in a luxury car. Cameras flashed. Friends hugged. The graduation ceremony was held in the largest auditorium in the state. Students lined up in alphabetical order. Madison Clark. Scholarship recipient. Academic Excellence Award. She waited backstage, smiling, rehearsing her walk. Then a university official stepped onto the stage holding a special folder. "Before we begin the conferring of degrees, we would like to recognize a legacy scholarship. One that has quietly supported exceptional students at this university for over 20 years. Madison barely listened, until the next words froze her breath. The donor requested anonymity until this year. But today she chose to be present. A murmur filled the hall. The official continued. This scholarship funded hundreds of futures, including our top graduate, Madison Clark. Madison felt heat rush to her face. She looked around searching for her parents, who looked just as confused. The official raised his hand toward the side entrance. Please welcome our founding benefactor. The doors opened slowly, and the bus stop Aunty walked in. Same posture, same calm steps, same faded coat. The room went silent. Madison felt the world tilt. The Aunty stepped onto the stage. She removed her coat, revealing a simple, elegant dress beneath. She looked out at the students with warmth and pride. Her voice carried through the hall. I stood at the bus stop every morning because it reminded me of where dreams begin. Quietly, patiently, without applause. Madison could not breathe. The Aunty continued. Some people wait for buses. Some wait for futures. I have been funding both. Madison felt every laugh, every comment, every insult crash back into her chest. The Aunty turned her gaze directly toward Madison. And some lessons come only at the very end. The hall erupted in applause. Madison stood frozen. Her scholarship, her pride, her assumptions, all exposed in one moment. And this Madison was only the beginning. There under the stage lights, feeling smaller than she ever had in 4 years of walking this campus like she owned it. The applause around her sounded distant, like waves crashing somewhere far away. Her parents clapped, slowly, confused smiles fixed on their faces, while their eyes kept drifting back to the woman on stage. The bus stop Aunty. No, the benefactor. The founder. The woman Madison had mocked every morning without learning her name. The Aunty continued speaking, her voice calm, steady, carrying the weight of years. I never wanted my name on buildings. I never wanted plaques. I wanted stories. I wanted to watch lives unfold from the simplest places. She smiled softly. A bus stop teaches patience. It shows you who you are when no one is watching. Madison felt her throat tighten. Her mind raced back through memories she never thought mattered. The napkin. The silence. The way the Aunty never once defended herself. The ceremony continued. Degrees were handed out. Names were called. Madison walked across the stage because her legs moved on instinct, not pride. When she shook hands with the dean, she could barely feel it. Her eyes were locked on the Aunty seated in the front row now, surrounded by administrators and donors, treating her with deep respect. After the ceremony, families flooded the lawn. Cameras flashed. Laughter echoed. Madison's parents finally spoke. Who is she? Her mother asked. Madison swallowed. She is the woman I laughed at. Her father frowned. What do you mean? Madison did not answer. She could not. Across the lawn, the Aunty stood speaking to a group of scholarship students, hugging some, listening to others. She looked more alive than anyone there. Madison felt something unfamiliar rise in her chest. Not anger. Shame. Not fear. She watched as one student cried, thanking the Aunty for saving her education. Another spoke about escaping poverty. Another about being the first in their family to graduate. Madison realized something terrifying. She had never once thanked anyone for her success. She had only claimed it. The crowd thinned. The sun lowered. Eventually, only a few people remained. The Aunty walked slowly toward the edge of the lawn, toward the old bus stop visible beyond the trees. Madison felt her feet move before her courage caught up. She followed. Each step felt heavier than the last. For years of arrogance pressed down on her shoulders. The Aunty reached the bus stop and stood there just like every morning. Hands folded. Eyes on the road. Madison stopped a few feet away. For the first time, she did not know what to say. The Aunty spoke first. You finally missed the bus. Madison laughed weakly, then stopped. Tears burned her eyes. I am sorry, she said quietly. For everything. The Aunty nodded. I know. That simple answer broke something inside Madison. Why did you never say anything? Why did you let me? The Aunty looked at her kindly. Because life teaches better than arguments. And time always reveals the truth. Madison wiped her face. I did not know. The Aunty turned to her. You did not want to know. Silence settled between them. Cars passed. Wind moved the leaves. Madison took a breath. Why me? Why fund my scholarship? The Aunty smiled. Because talent without humility is unfinished. And I hoped time would finish you. Madison felt exposed, seen in a way no achievement ever had. "What happens now?" she asked. The auntie looked down the road. "Now you choose who you become after the applause ends." A bus approached in the distance. The same bus that came every morning. The auntie stepped forward. "Some lessons come at the beginning. Some come at the end. And some stay with you forever." The bus doors opened. The auntie stepped on. Madison stood there watching until the bus disappeared. For the first time in years, the bus stop felt like a mirror. The bus disappeared down the road, leaving Madison alone at the stop, where 4 years of her life replayed in her head like a slow, painful movie. The bench, the cracked pavement, the faded sign, everything looked the same, yet nothing felt familiar anymore. Graduation day ended, but the lesson did not. Madison returned home that night to a celebration dinner her parents had arranged at an upscale restaurant filled with smiling relatives and loud praise. Everyone called her brilliant, unstoppable, destined for greatness. She smiled when expected. She nodded when praised. But inside her chest something felt hollow. Every compliment echoed differently now. Every mention of scholarship burned. Later that night, she lay awake staring at the ceiling. The auntie's voice repeated in her mind. "Talent without humility is unfinished." Madison had always believed success was proof of worth. Now she wondered who she had been without the applause. A week later, she started her prestigious internship at a Manhattan financial firm. Glass walls, steel desks, polished floors. People spoke fast and walked faster. Power lived in their posture. Madison fit in perfectly. Or so it seemed. On her first day, the elevator was crowded. A cleaning woman stood quietly in the corner holding supplies. Her uniform was worn. Her face calm. Someone muttered, "These people always get in the way." A laugh followed. Madison felt her stomach twist. She watched the woman stare at the floor just like the auntie used to watch the road. The silence felt loud. Without thinking, Madison stepped forward. She can stand wherever she wants. The elevator went quiet. Eyes turned. The woman looked up surprised. Madison smiled at her. A small, honest smile. The doors opened. People rushed out. The woman whispered, "Thank you." Madison nodded. Her heart raced. It was a small moment, but it felt heavier than any award. That evening, Madison skipped the networking event and took the subway instead. She sat beside strangers. Watched faces. Listened to stories without words. She began noticing things she never had before. Who held doors? Who avoided eye contact? Who stood quietly while others took space? Weeks passed. Her work performance stayed strong. But her priorities shifted. She started volunteering at the university's scholarship office remotely. Reviewing applications. Reading stories. Late one night, she opened a file marked Legacy Fund. The same fund that had paid for her education. She read letters from students who worked 2 jobs. From parents who sacrificed meals. From dreams balanced on fragile hope. Madison closed her laptop and cried. For the first time, she cried not for herself, but for how blind she had been. She requested a meeting with the University Foundation. When asked why, she simply said, "I want to understand where I came from." Months later, she returned to the campus quietly. No announcements. No cameras. She walked to the bus stop early in the morning. The same time she used to stand there laughing. The auntie was not there. A different group of students waited. New faces. New futures. Madison stood at the edge watching. Listening. A young girl whispered to her friend, "Why does that old lady always stand here?" Madison turned. A woman stood nearby. Different face. Same posture. History repeating itself. Madison stepped closer to the girl. "She stands here because this is where journeys begin." The girl frowned. Confused. Madison smiled. "And you never know who is watching." The bus arrived. The woman stepped on. Madison remained. For the first time, she was not waiting for success. She was waiting to become worthy of it. Madison did not return to Manhattan right away. She extended her stay near the campus, telling her parents she needed time to think. They did not understand, but for once she did not explain. Each morning, she walked to the bus stop. Not as a student. Not as a mocker. But as an observer. She watched patterns form. Who arrived early? Who stood back? Who spoke loudly? Who stayed silent? She noticed a freshman boy who always pretended not to see the homeless man near the bench. A girl who complained about tuition while scrolling on a phone worth more than some families earned in months. Laughter that cut. Silence that absorbed. And she remembered herself. One morning she brought coffee. She offered it quietly to the woman who now stood in the same place the auntie once had. The woman hesitated, then accepted. "Thank you," she said, surprised. Madison nodded. No speeches. No explanations. Word spread slowly, not online, but in small human ways. That Madison Clark, the top graduate, was helping students fill forms. Listening instead of speaking. Standing instead of shining. The university noticed. They invited her to speak at an alumni panel. She refused. "Not yet," she said. Instead, she wrote a letter. One she never sent to anyone but herself. "I was given much before I learned to give. I mistook silence for weakness. And applause for truth." She folded it and kept it in her bag. One afternoon, the University Foundation called. The auntie wanted to meet. Madison's hands trembled as she arrived at the same old office building near the campus. This time the auntie was not wearing the faded coat. She wore a simple blazer. Still modest. Still powerful. They sat across from each other, the auntie said. Madison smiled. "I finally see." The auntie nodded. "Seeing is the first repayment." Madison took a breath. "I want to help. Not with my name. Not with recognition." The auntie studied her for a long moment. Then she spoke. "Good. Because the fund was never about money. It was about guardians." Madison leaned forward. Guardians. People who watch quietly. Who step in when needed. Who protect without owning. Madison understood. The auntie slid a folder across the table. "I am stepping back," she said. "I want you to stand where I once stood." Madison froze. "I am not ready." The auntie smiled gently. "No one ever is." They walked together to the bus stop afterward. Side by side. Students passed. Some recognized Madison. Some did not. The auntie stopped at her usual place. "This is where you learn," she said. Madison stood next to her. "What if I fail?" The auntie looked at the road. "Then you will finally be human." The bus came. The auntie did not step on this time. She turned to Madison. "Tomorrow you come alone." And with that, she walked away into the crowd. Madison remained standing. For the first time, the bus stop felt like responsibility. The next morning, Madison arrived at the bus stop before sunrise. The air was cool, the street quiet, the sky still undecided between night and day. She stood where the auntie always stood. Hands folded. Eyes on the road. At first it felt like pretending. Like wearing shoes too big. Students arrived. Some glanced at her. Some ignored her. Some whispered, "Is that Madison Clark?" She did not react. A group of girls laughed nearby. One pointed at an older woman waiting farther down. "Why does she always stand here? Probably has nothing better to do." The words hit Madison like an echo from another lifetime. She stepped forward calmly. "She stands here because she is going somewhere. Just like you." The girls looked embarrassed. They fell silent. The older woman looked at Madison confused. "Thank you," she said softly. Madison nodded. No pride. No performance. Days turned into weeks. Madison kept returning to the bus stop. Sometimes she brought coffee. Sometimes she helped with forms. Sometimes she simply listened. She learned names. Stories. Struggles. A boy whose scholarship was about to be canceled because of one missing document. A girl sleeping in her car while maintaining perfect grades. A mother attending night classes after factory shifts. Madison worked quietly, connecting them with resources. Calling offices. Writing emails. Sitting beside them in silence. No one posted about it. No one applauded. She felt lighter than she ever had. One afternoon, a reporter recognized her. "You could be anywhere." Madison answered simply, "Because this is where I was found." The article never ran. Madison did not care. Months later, the university announced a new scholarship quietly. No donor name. No ceremony. Only one condition. Recipients must give 1 year standing watch. Madison smiled when she read it. The auntie visited one last time. She stood beside Madison at the bus stop. 2 generations. 1 purpose. You learned. The auntie said. I am still learning. Madison replied. The auntie nodded. Good. Then my work is done. She stepped onto the bus. This time Madison watched not with regret but with gratitude. Graduation season returned again. New students. New laughter. Madison stood at the bus stop. A rich girl laughed loudly nearby. Madison turned toward her. The laughter cut through the morning air, sharp, careless, familiar. Madison turned slowly toward the sound. A rich college girl stood with her friend's phone in hand, outfit perfect, confidence loud. She pointed toward a quiet older woman standing near the bus stop, clutching a worn bag. Why does she stand like that every day? So dramatic. Like someone is filming her. The friends laughed. Madison felt time fold in on itself. For years ago. Same tone. Same cruelty. Same ignorance. She walked toward them calmly. Not angry. Not rushed. She stood between the laughter and the silence. She is not dramatic, Madison said. She is patient. The girl rolled her eyes. And who are you? Madison smiled gently. Someone who learned too late. So you do not have to. The friends looked confused. The rich girl scoffed. Whatever. They turned away. The older woman looked at Madison. Thank you, she whispered. Madison nodded. You're welcome, she said. And she meant it. That afternoon Madison sat in a small office reviewing scholarship applications. Hundreds of names. Hundreds of stories. Hundreds of bus stops. She no longer looked for grades first. She looked for resilience. For humility. For quiet strength. She rejected some perfect resumes. She approved some broken ones. Not because they were weak, but because they were real. One application caught her eye. A student from a wealthy family. Top scores. Strong letters. But one line stood out. I deserve this. Madison closed the file gently. She wrote a note. Come back when you are ready to listen. Outside the window the bus stop filled and emptied. Life moving forward one arrival at a time. Madison realized something important. Power was never about standing above. It was about standing near. And watching. Part 7 end. Years later the bus stop looked newer. Fresh paint. Better benches. But the lessons stayed old and true. Students still laughed. Still rushed. Still judged. And someone always stood quietly. Sometimes it was Madison. Sometimes it was a former scholarship student. Sometimes it was someone new learning to watch. The original auntie never returned. But her presence never left. Her rules lived on. No names. No plaques. No applause. Only impact. Madison eventually left the city life. The finance world. The noise. She chose work that kept her close to beginnings. Close to people before they became something. One morning a young girl stood beside her at the bus stop. Why do you always stand here? The girl asked. Madison smiled softly. Because every future passes through here first. The bus arrived. Doors opened. People stepped on. Dreams moved forward. Madison stayed. Standing. Watching. Guarding. And somewhere in the quiet between arrivals, the lesson continued. Never laugh at someone waiting. Because you never know who funded your journey.